Welcome in, everyone. It's official, the weekly podcast where we take on 5 hot topics in horse racing each and every week. Representing First Bet and Express Bet, that's Jeff Siegel. I'm Jeremy Plonk, and it's post-Breeders' Cup, Jeff, and in many cases, the Breeders' Cup gave us the thrills we were looking for. It gave us the emotion we were looking for, and some of the disappointment as well. It was everything and all the emotions wrapped up into one, and we get to recap it all here this week.
I'll tell you, though, it was a great 2 days of racing. I couldn't have asked for better. Great weather. We had tremendous performances, performances that'll carry over until next year, and then maybe even next year at this time. It just was a spectacular day, 2 days for sure. I was wrong about a couple of things. I mean, I couldn't have been more wrong than about a couple of things. But on the other hand, there was money to be made. We made money. That's good from a gambling standpoint. But more importantly than that, we saw some performances of a lifetime. And thank you for the Europeans to come over and show how great they are. I mean, it's just a pleasure to be able to see the champions that they were able to send over.
Sure.
And we might have seen a 2-year-old that might be extraordinary next winter and spring. So it all kind of came together. And then, of course, you can't write a better story than Cody's Wish. And at the time he won that race, Jeremy, I thought they were going to take him down because I thought he came over and bumped that other horse. And I'm saying to myself, there is no way this horse is coming down. No way. And thank God they did not disqualify Cody's Wish, because that would have ruined everything if they had. But he went out a winner, and the storyline played its course. And we'll talk about that as well with Cody Dorman, because he was part of that magnificent, heartbreaking story.
Absolutely. We're going to lead with that. We're also going to wrap with it at the end, so be sure to stay with us. Let's go to the big board. Our first of 5 topics, wishes were granted. Cody's Wish, defending champion in the Breeders' Cup Dirt Mile. He got there again just in the nick of time, just like he did last year at Keeneland. Let's go back with Larry Colmus's call from NBC.
Cody's Wish is coming now. He's beginning to move. He just moved up alongside of Zozo's. He just went by Chargent. He's 4th, and Junior Alvarado and Cody's Wish are on the move as they round the far turn. National Treasure has a 2-length lead here. Skippy Longstocking is 2nd. Cody's Wish has made his way up into 3rd, and they're into the stretch. And it's National Treasure still there. Cody's Wish in between horses. Now up into 2nd. On the outside, it's Skippy Longstocking. Here comes Cody's Wish alongside of National Treasure. Cody's Wish takes the lead. Cody's Wish and National Treasure coming down to the line. Fighting back National Treasure. Oh, Cody's Wish. Cody's Wish. I think he won it by a nose on the wire over National Treasure. Thank you, Cody, and thank you, Cody's Wish.
Just as exciting, just as heart-wrenching to watch this year as it was last year. Jeff, we were wondering from a handicapper standpoint if Cody's Wish was as good this year as last year when it came to a 2-turn type of race. His 2-turn races on his form weren't as good as his 1-turn races throughout his career, but he saved his best for last. This was a really good performance. Now, he did not run down a world beater. I know it's the Preakness winner, National Treasure, but he hadn't been a whole lot outside of that Preakness effort. Skippy Longstocking in 3rd. This was a race that kind of came back to Cody's Wish, right? When you had the scratches of Practical Move and some others in there. This was a race, the Dirt Mile, that the longer the week went and the better Cody trained and as good as he looked on the track, it just kind of, the momentum built back to like, he's going to do this, isn't he? And he just got there to do it.
He did, and I'm thankful that I don't have to talk about how much better he is sprinting than routing anymore, because I can't. It's kind of almost an indefensible position. He did win back-to-back Breeders' Cup Dirt Miles. He did not run well going a mile and 1/8, but at this stage of the game, it doesn't matter anymore. It really isn't. He goes out a winner. He's going to stand for $75,000, which sounds like it's a little high to me. But you know something? Who would not want a foal by Cody's Wish? If the foal has half the heart that he did when he ran, you're going to have yourself fun. And of course, as a son of Curlin, Curlin's getting up there in age. This colt horse could be an heir apparent at stud. I think he'll be popular. And he's a great-looking horse, and if he goes to stud and gets the kind of support that he should get, regardless of the stud fee, I can't wait to see how his foals run in 3 years down the road.
Could be a groundswell for Horse of the Year as well. I mean, you look at Met Mile, Vosburg, Breeders' Cup, Dirt Mile in a year where the Classic division is a little bit up in the air. We'll talk more about that. Could Cody's Wish potentially be Horse of the Year?
No, I don't think it's any question. I mean, I remember getting into conversation when the year that Zenyatta won Horse of the Year, even though Blame beat her rather in the Classic, and there was a opinion that because Blame won the championship race, he should be Horse of the Year. But there are divisions, awards for older horse. The problem now. Horse of the Year, I think, in my opinion, everybody has their own definition of what it is, but not only did his resume warrant it, but he was the story throughout the year, thanks in part to Cody Dorman, but still, he was the one that everybody was talking about. So that's part of the equation. But when it came down to winning his last race, he rose to the occasion. And I think he will be a deserving Horse of the Year, and I cannot imagine him not being. Not that there aren't other qualified candidates, but Cody's Wish is going to be Horse of the Year.
And you talk about the excitement of this race, and you had mentioned Zenyatta in another context, but her victory in the Breeders' Cup Classic at Santa Anita was one of the great races in Santa Anita history. And you're a historian who has been around Santa Anita since you were knee-high to the rail.
Right.
Talk about this race in the annals of races people will remember at Santa Anita for all time.
I can think of four. Now, one of them, I was a little bit too young. In fact, I wasn't even born yet. And that's Seabiscuit. And primarily, my
This is the first horse on our podcast history that you've mentioned that you said I wasn't born yet for.
I wasn't. And there aren't that many around, I'm telling you. But the thing about, and the only reason why I saw Seabiscuit is because I've seen the movie 200 times. Now, that movie didn't really depict accurately the big cat, but he did. That was his last race. And it was a great story, more than I can even fathom or even grasp back then, when horse racing was the number one sport in the United States. So that was the first one. I was alive to see George Royal win in '66, Johnny Longden's last ride, when he was the horse was supposedly washed up. Johnny Longden was kind of washed up, and it was his last ride. And I'll never forget the story. I was only 15 at the time, but George Royal won the race by a nose, and Johnny Longden rode the race of his life to win the San Juan. And they even said it was such an emotional time in the press box that all the riders, all that the journalists and the riders, the hardcore players, all started crying when he won. It was that emotional. Turns out they were crying because they all bet on Plaque, who got beat this far. That was the real reason they were crying. But the idea was that I remember that's the most emotional. In fact, it was voted the most important race in the history of Santa Anita back in the 90s when they held that kind of vote and trying to promote it for its anniversary. Then you had, of course, Zenyatta in the race that you mentioned. When I watched that race from the steps, right, not even in the seats, but in the steps, and when she came roaring by, it was just so dramatic, and I knew that it would be a race for the ages. I know people who didn't even know horse racing or cared about it would know about Zenyatta because of this race, and then this race here. I mean, this had all the elements of being one of the great races, not only because a great horse won it, a Horse of the Year won it, the storyline with Cody Dorman. And the fact that he won by this much and had to survive a steward's inquiry, an inquiry that I thought was not, you could have made a case was justified. This will be the fourth, in my lifetime anyway, most memorable race, one of the four anyway, in Santa Anita history. And that history goes back a long way.
Great memories there. And of course, the memory of Cody Dorman, where we turn next in this story. Unfortunately, the young man born with Wolff-Hirschhorn syndrome passed away on Sunday. The return trip, a medical event happened on his return trip from California back to his Kentucky home. And Cody Dorman, his family announced on Monday, had passed away on Sunday. Just a heart-wrenching exclamation point to a story, right? I mean, the shriek of the exclamation point, not the excitement of the race. The race was an exclamation point for excitement. The shriek and the disappointment of hearing of young Cody's passing just 24, 48 hours later when the news started to come out. This is a story, Cody's Wish and the Make-A-Wish Foundation, that started back in 2018 when there was a curlin foal on Godolphin's Gainsborough farm in Lexington. Keeneland has their Make-A-Wish Day, where they pair up children with the local Make-A-Wish program with various activities around the thoroughbred racing industry. And Cody Dorman was sent out to Gainsborough Farm, where he met this curlin foal, who they befriended one another and went on to a magical, absolutely magical ride together through these past couple years. We're going to talk more about the personal side and the family, Father Kelly, Mother Leslie, Sister Kylie at the end of our show. But certainly the Cody's Wish story doesn't exist without Cody Dorman. Otherwise, Cody's Wish is a great horse without the great message. And the great message is something that, frankly, we don't deserve in horse racing. Of all the things that have gone wrong and the way we have shot ourselves in the foot, this horse, this young man, this story over the past 2 years in the Breeders' Cup and throughout this 5-year-old's racing career is more than any of us really deserve. It's been a uplifting, positive boost that in some circles we have benefited from, the attention, the positivity of it. In life, we have certainly benefited from it. But as a racing industry, we've got to get out of our way and realize that greatness like this is the uplifting things that should be leading us. And so Cody's Wish, Cody's Dorman, God bless you, young man. We will talk more about the family statement and how you can help with other children in the Make-A-Wish program at the end of our program. But Jeff, your thoughts on just the human horse element side of this?
I want to commend everybody involved, the family for sure, but the people who own the horse and train the horse, and Bill Mott and everybody who went out of their way to make sure that the story was not going to be glossed over. I mean, the cooperation you saw from the connections and the people who took care of the racehorse and how cooperative and helpful they were. I want to tip my hat to them, because there are people out there who would have owned a horse like this that might have just brushed it off, okay, come over and one time and then that's it. But they embraced the whole story throughout the horse's career, and I want to give props to those people, to Bill Mott and again the owners and everybody else involved who embraced it and made the story, helped make the story what it was. And I don't know whether this is stuff that makes movies or not. So many movies that we see about horse racing are, we watch them and they're not really accurate. They're Hollywood made. Right. You wouldn't have to add a thing to this movie.
No,
it's true to its core. You wouldn't have to invent any storyline. It's all there, and maybe somebody will come around and write a script that will be worthy of the story, and it'll uplift people who still aren't aware of what happened here.
It is such a heartwarming story that it made a blue-blooded horse owned by one of the world's richest men, the underdog.
Right.
Think about that. Cody's Wish was an underdog story who otherwise, without the human Cody involved, would have been the aristocracy, not the underdog. But we got the benefit of human emotion and a little divine intervention, I think.
Honestly, I'm not religious, but I honestly believe that. I mean, I have no other explanation, Yes. So I just accept it and enjoy it and relish in a good part, a good story, and something that maybe will affect people and touch them in ways they never would have been.
Let's go to another human as part of this story of the Cody's Wish story, because Bill Mott had a Breeders' Cup of the Ages. It wasn't Mano Mandela from 2003, but it was 3 wins on Breeders' Cup Day, including 2 defending champions. What a Breeders' Cup for trainer Bill Mott. We already saw Cody's Wish get to the winner's circle in the dirt mile. That was his second winner on Breeders' Cup Day, because he started it off in the juvenile fillies with Just FYI running by the heavy favorite Tamara.
And they're into the stretch. Just FYI Tamara to the inside, now has given way. It is just FYI in front from Jody's Pride and Candide on the outside. Camera is back to fourth. Just FYI, Jody's Pride, and on the outside, Candide. Here is the wire. Just FYI, she's a champ.
Jeff, juvenile fillies early in the day. It was a series of maybe some upsets. Well, they were upsets on the dirt races on Breeders' Cup Friday, Future Stars Friday. Your thoughts on just FYI, the winner of the Frizette? It stays a key prep.
Well, another Justify. This one undefeated. This one a champion. And I gave her a really good look. Now, I honestly thought that Tamara was going to win the race, and I really thought she was going to win the race when she made the lead going into the clubhouse turn without even having to be sent. Turns out she comes out with a hairline fracture of a hind ankle and will be out a few months. Not career threatening or anything like that. They'll give her some time. I was a little concerned, and you were a little bit more concerned about her than I was, but there was enough that crept into my concern. I just thought they had. Look, I'm not going to second guess Richard Mandela, but I just thought that they had trained her a little too hard for my liking, and that might kind of chip away at some of her sharpness. And I don't know whether that was the cause, but I did like the way Just FYI was coming around. She'd had two real impressive starts. I didn't know if the post was going to do her in or not, but and I think because she's by Justify, she's going to get nothing but better next year. And she could be very special. So I tell you what, not surprising at all. And from that standpoint, and a deserved champion for sure. We'll look forward to see how much, if any, she will develop next winter and spring.
That's at least 2 champions for Bill Mott, and you might as well just engrave the 3rd trophy, because after the sprint, it's Elite Power again, and every bit as good as he was last year.
And they're into the stretch. Speedboat beats the leader. Gunite on the outside. Elite Power coming down the center. Nakatomi is 4th. Then the Chosen Brawn. Elite Power. Elite Power to the front. At the 16th pole, Gunite is 2nd. But Elite Power does it again in the Breeders' Cup Sprint. Gunite 2nd best today. Nakatomi was 3rd. Speedboat beats 4th in 108.34.
Gunite and Elite Power have put on some shows this year. They've had some matchups, but the final decision is Elite Power in terms of numbers, and he got the key one, and he will be the champion sprinter once again. He has been so good for 2 consecutive years.
He's been terrific, and credit to Bill Mott for keeping him in peak form along with Cody's Wish, and then developing the filly. Between those 3, they ran 13 times and won 11 times. 11 out of 13 this year. If that doesn't get Bill Mott the Cups Award, I don't know what does, because while Bill may not have had the numbers, he doesn't start as many horses. He goes for the most important races. He has his horses peak at the right time. Always have, always will. And it's just, I hope his year doesn't get overlooked, because I can't think of anybody who could possibly have done better with 3 champions, 3 Breeders' Cup winners, and having them peak and all healthy and ready to roll and ready to run the race as capable of their doing at the right time on the right day.
1998 Hall of Fame inductee Bill Mott has won Breeders' Cup races in every decade but the 2000s, believe it or not. His first came in 1987 with the Great Turfer Theatrical on the grass amongst his 15 Breeders' Cup wins. His first starter in the Breeders' Cup came with Taylor Special, which was really the first big horse from his barn in the 86 Sprint. So Mott wasn't around for the first 2 Breeders' Cups, but since then on, the last 38, he has been as good as anyone with 15 career wins on Championship Day. And you talk about the all-time rankings for Bill Mott. Number 4 all-time in terms of earnings, $339 million. But he's also number 7 all-time in wins. And you wouldn't think that with Bill Mott, because he's so direct with his horses, right? It's not just like a big campaign of just like, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of starters every year and thousands of starters like we see with some of the volume barns. Early in his career, Fairgrounds Churchill, he did win a lot of volume, but later from like the mid-90s on, once he got to the Cigar and beyond that, it's been much more select in terms of great horses for Bill Mott. Number 7 all-time wins with 5,360 plus coming into this racing week. Just a phenomenal career. And I heard something on the simulcast show, and I'm not going to call out any individuals at all, but someone made the comment like Bill Mott is some Johnny come lately for winning the last 2 years, winning all these Breeders' Cup races, and saying, you don't think of Bill Mott the way you think of Chad Brown and Todd Pletcher and Bob Baffert. Well, if you've watched horse racing for any more than 10 years, you sure have, because Bill Mott since the mid-90s has been the creme de la creme of outstanding great horsemen. He does everything the way that you would want it done. I've often said if I was an owner with big money and big repute, he'd be the first guy I want to send my horses to. And he's reinvented himself, Jeff, because we used to think of Bill Mott like 90s and on. It was like, long distance horses and turf horses and all this. Now he's winning 2-year-old championships. The Juvenile Fillies was his 7th different division, winning a Breeders' Cup division in when he won it with just FYI. And that's one of the reasons you kind of liked her as a handicapper. She won her debut. Wait a minute, a Mott horse coming out winning right off the bat. Oh, she won the Frazette in her second start. It's like, she must be exceptional because that's not his MO. But man, Mott, he can do anything, and what a Hall of Fame, immaculate career, and he deserves any plaudits that he gets. This should be his 4th Eclipse Award as champion trainer.
You said something while you were speaking. You referred to the quote-unquote volume barns. I'm going to steal that from you because we know who they are. We know the guys who have 150 horses or 200 horses, and Bill Mott trains under his shed row. That's what he trains. He's got all the horses he knows. And you're right. The versatility, grass, dirt, sprinter, router, 2-year-olds. I mean, he doesn't get the Euro invading horses that maybe some of the others get, but trust me, he can train them too if you just gave him 1 or 2. I mean, we know that. So, I mean, the bottom line is I just hope that his I'm sure he's going to get he should get the Eclipse Award, but I hope people think of him as a different in the same light that you and I have thought about him for the last 30 years, and that is one of the very best trainers anywhere and anytime.
His horses came back for repeat efforts and winning at the Breeders' Cup. That is to be commended. Will we see more repeat efforts in 2024? That's what we're going to look forward to, of the horses from this year's Breeders' Cup who'll be back in 2024. Let's take a look at some of the horses who were successful last weekend and that we're expecting to see again. First up, White Abarrio, who put a cap on his season with a victory in the Breeders' Cup Classic for Rick Dutrow.
Around the far turn, Arabian Night, White Abarrio circles up on the outside. Saudi Crown all out between those two. Then it's Dervis Sotagake. Ushba Tesoro is beginning to move on the outside, but work to do as White Abarrio and Arabian Night turn for home together in the Breeders' Cup Classic. White Abarrio has taken the lead. Arabian Night gives way. Dervis Sotagake and Ushba Tesoro are trying to close the gap, but it is White Abarrio and Brad Ortiz, and they have won the Breeders' Cup Classic over Dervis Sotagake. Proxy came late, was in a photo for third with Arabian Night in 2:02.87 seconds. It's White Abarrio.
So of the top 4 in the Breeders' Cup Classic, 3 are expected to run again in 2024. 3 of the top 4 in there. Only Proxy has been retired, the third place finisher. He will head to stud from here. But we talk about White Abarrio, Jeff, supposed to come back in 2024. But before we talk about that, give us your thoughts on his 23 season.
Well, it normally would be Horse of the Year. Now he probably won't even get an Eclipse Award because if Cody's Wish is going to be Horse of the Year, he's also going to be an older horse too,
Yeah, champion older.
And so he'll probably get robbed of that. But he doesn't have the value as a stallion that the other horses have because he's
Mhm.
by race day, and race day is not a sire of sires.
Mhm.
Something that's fine because he can make more money racing in Saudi Arabia if he wants to do that,
Right.
and the Dubai World Cup, and I mean he can actually earn purse money that might actually exceed what he would get as a stallion.
Mhm.
Plus, he's not exactly an old horse. I mean, he's an old, he's a
Right.
4-year-old. He can be a great 5-year-old, which back in the day, it's when they're supposed to be their best,
Yeah.
and anyway. So, and he's going to try. I understand he's probably going to continue out and train here at Santa Anita. I know Dutro's trying to get a stable together and stay out here, which would be fine for us if he
Mhm.
does. But this was to me a miss. Now I don't mind losing, not playing a 5-2 shot. I can live without it.
Right.
But I didn't think. I thought he was up against it. I didn't
Mhm.
like the training pattern he had. I didn't think he was a 1.25 mile type horse, but I was wrong. I mean, he outran my expectations. But at least Derma Sorogaki ran well. We weren't wrong 6 months ago. We were not wrong, were we?
No, he
We
was
thought he was
decent.
the
I mean,
best
he could
three-year-old.
might have been the horse in the Kentucky Derby with a better start and a better trip the way that he came back and ran here. Now he's supposed to stay in training. He's going to run again in December in Japan. So,
Right.
He's had time off. So there's no need to kind of go on the shelf for Derma Sotogaki. 4th place finisher in the Classic Arabian Night is supposed to come back for a 3-year-old or 4-year-old season. He would make a lot of sense in the Pegasus World Cup in January. If they want to cut back and go for the Malibu at Santa Anita, that would also be eligible on December 26th. But I would think Arabian Night would make a lot of sense for Pegasus World Cup, and then go overseas, of course, with Middle Eastern ownership. That
Absolutely,
and Dubai World Cup are going to be on their radar as well. So as we look at the horses from the Classic division coming back next year, we also have the runner-up in the Dirt Mile to Cody's Wish, National Treasure. He's going to come back next year. He makes a ton of sense for a race like the Pegasus World Cup, or it could be a Kentucky Derby rematch, a Derby Preakness rematch, because Mage is still in training and he's supposed to come back at 4. And again, Mage Florida base, that would make a lot of sense that they would point maybe towards the Pegasus World Cup there. So maybe a Derby Preakness showdown perhaps in the Pegasus in January. We're getting way ahead of the skis, of course, but this is what you look forward to post Breeders' Cup now. Like, what's the next generation, right? What's the next storyline? What's going to drive the narratives over the course of 2024? We've got Derby and Preakness winners back. That's good. Belmont winner Arcangelo and Travers winner Arcangelo, of course, retired to stud with his injury right before the Breeders' Cup Classic. So this wasn't a classic. I don't think this is a fabulous classic winner. Kind of reminds me a bit of like Black Tie Affair winning back in 1991. Good handicap division horse, but not like an all-time great. White Abarrio, credit to, his improvement. I mean, he has gotten obviously decidedly better in the 3 races since Dutro's had him. Say what you want about Dutro. There are people in the camp who absolutely feel that he was wronged for being suspended for 10 years. There are other people who said, I wish he would have never came back after 10 years. Whatever side of the road you're on, and I've been on the record, I'm not a Dutro fan. I've never been a Dutro fan. And I actually even said this. I did a show on OTB Network in New York over the weekend, and I said it Saturday morning. They said, what do you think of White Abarrio? And I said, it might be the Dutro bias in my mind working against me, that I'm not rooting for him. And therefore, I'm not giving the horse the respect he deserves. He ran better than the pre-race respect I gave the horse. And again, that can be personally driven. As a handicapper and as a sports fan, we run into this. That's why I don't bet sports, because I have too much heart involved to let my head decipher things out. But I remember with Big Brown, that was a situation that I ran into with Big Brown. I just didn't feel comfortable taking that horse to win the Kentucky Derby. Same with White Abarrio in here. And that's on me. I mean, the horse is legally allowed to run, the trainer's legally allowed to train, and we have to sort those things out as gamblers. And sometimes you got to be honest with yourself. And so I know for a fact that I leave my Dutro bias against come into the handicapping sphere sometimes. And I'll have to admit on this one, White Abarrio's better than I thought. And he's better than probably my discerning skills should have allowed me to.
Yeah, well, I can tell you this: he's done a great job with White Abarrio. But my picking against him had nothing to do with any bias. I just didn't think he can go a mile and a quarter. So
I didn't think he could go a mile quarter either. Right. So
Oh.
sometimes you're looking for reasons too.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, and maybe that's where I started like, okay, well, I don't think he's a mile and a quarter. And that helps offset some of the other part of it. But hats off to White Abarrio, the horse, for a fantastic performance in the Breeders' Cup Classic. Not an all-timer, but look, he is the Classic winner for 2023. And he certainly earned it on the track. Let's talk about some more horses who are going to be back in 2024, Jeff. Let's go from the Classic next up to, what are we looking at? The Philly and Mare Turf. Where in Spiral, what a performance. And she's not done yet.
Nothing yet from Spiral. She's going to weave to the outside. She still has 6 lengths to gain. In Italian to catch. Warm Heart ranges up alongside of her and goes on by. Here comes Spiral and Moira. Here comes Spiral after Warm Heart. Spiral! And Frankie Dettori timed it right. Warm Heart was next. Moira and Win Maryland.
Frankie Dettori didn't retire yet. He's still got something going, and a great ride there. And Spiral, you know, she was an elite miler over the past couple years in Europe. The question was the mile and a quarter, would she have the same kind of turn of foot? That answer's yes.
John Gosden, who trains her, said after the race, the stupid trainer never ran her a mile and a quarter. He didn't think she could run this far. The stupid trainer, of course, was John himself.
Right.
But the massive turn of foot, and, you know, though she may not really be a mile and a quarter overseas, but she certainly would be on this course.
Right.
And given so much to do, not because the jockey was overconfident. She got a great trip, but she likes to settle and blast home. And from the short run in from the top of the stretch to the wire, there was a little bit of a concern that maybe it would be too short for her, but it wasn't. And that was a tremendous filly that she beat, a Classic winner overseas in Warm Heart. So, you know, these Breeders' Cup races, they are not the same without the Euros, because say what you want, they're just better at what they do than what we do. And to have the Breeders' Cup program, not only on Saturday, but Friday as well, showcase these Euros where in many cases we wouldn't have a chance to enjoy them. I tip my hat to the Euros. I tip my hat to anybody who will bring over a top-class horse. And I don't understand, but I'm thrilled to death that the decision to run her as a 5-year-old, because, I mean, she'd make such a great broodmare, but they feel that there's money out there. They want to run her. They want her to enjoy the sport. That's refreshing in this day and age, as you know. But it looks like if she stays healthy and stays sound, we could absolutely see her back next year at Del Mar.
Another major leaguer from overseas, Auguste Rodin, punched his ticket successfully in the Breeders' Cup Turf, and he's expected back perhaps for a 4-year-old campaign, maybe on dirt. We'll find out maybe if he's not in the Breeders' Cup Classic next year. But before then, let's look back at his memorable run rallying to win the turf.
Up to the mark is moving up alongside. Adamo is in between those two. Mostadov comes 4 wide. Auguste Rodin got through on the inside. A dream run for Auguste Rodin. Up to the mark, takes him on with a furlong to run. And then comes Shahryar. But Auguste Rodin under a perfect ride from Ryan Moore will win the Breeders' Cup Turf. Up to the mark was second. Shahryar was third, and Gold Phoenix came on for fourth. The final time, 2:24.3. Talk about a perfect trip.
Hours later, Ryan Moore's on a plane heading to Flemington, Australia for last night's big race, U.S. time, the
Melbourne Cup.
The Melbourne Cup, of course. I'm losing my train of thought there. So the world globetrotter Ryan Moore didn't have success in Melbourne, but he certainly had success aboard Auguste Rodin. And what a just beautiful run for this horse. And the top 3 and great. I mean, up to the mark. He was fabulous. Shahryar, the Japanese horse, didn't have the greatest trip, and he finished with interest. This was, I think, maybe the best, deepest edition of the Breeders' Cup Turf in its 40-year history, and it played out that way. The stars showed up.
That's what I had said on the video that I posted on the wagering guide. I think this was, and I've seen them all, as you know, but I had a great respect for the winner, Auguste Rodin, a dual Classic winner. By Deep Impact, one of the most successful stallions in Japan, son of Sunday Silence, by the way. And this horse, a Breeders' Cup Turf winner, Epsom Derby winner, Irish Derby winner, Irish Champion Stakes winner, incredible pedigree. This horse, I don't even know who else in the world would not retire this horse as a stallion, and yet he's going to come back. Times are changing for the better, because I'd sure like to see him run next year as a 4-year-old, whether he goes overseas or wherever. Whether he goes to Dubai or wherever, I don't know. But man, I'd love to see him on the dirt next year at Del Mar. And Aidan O'Brien said, he says, this horse trains so well on the dirt, maybe I should have run him in the Classic. And if you watch this horse's action, he is the smoothest, most athletic horse you can possibly imagine. He's been a grass horse, but I knew he'd like the firm ground. He just gets over the ground flawlessly, effortlessly, doesn't even try, and he's just beautiful mover. Yep. I think he would run on dirt, and I think they think he would too, and that would make him very attractive to American breeders if he had that chance next year. So maybe that's the reason. If he stays healthy, can't wait to see him come back. I don't care what race they run him in.
They might have to separate him from their superstar 2-year-old turning 3 City of Troy next year.
Right.
Could be running in all the big ones as
well.
well.
They'll run him in the mile, and run that's August. And then City of Troy will come back the following year and run in.
There you go. That's good problems to have for the Coolmore team there for sure. Now, Jeff put this one on the rundown, and I almost nixed it because I don't think I can watch it again. But we're going to go back to the mile where Maj, he and I were both on Maj on Saturday, and I thought she was home free. But Master of the Seas came and got her in the Godolphin Blue, running 1-2.
Inside, Maj looking to come off the rail now and make a run. And here she comes as she swings up on the outside. Then astronomer Cheryl Spite is coming on. Casa Creed rolling down the center of the course. Master of the Seas trying to get into it late. Maj in front. Casa Creed on the outside. Master of the Seas closing with a rush. Here's the wire. Oh, the Godolphins were notches apart. Maj and Master of the Seas inseparable at the finish in the Breeders' Cup Mile.
They're separable, unfortunately, by a nose, and it was Master of the Seas nostril who got there in time, just a lip better than Maj. The 3-year-old filly Maj, she ran her eyeballs out. Fantastic performance by her, but Master of the Seas from the 14 hole, man, you've got to tip your cap and give credit to that one, and we could see both of these runners back next year.
Well, we were. I mean, Master of the Seas is a gelding, so he'll run as long as they can. And Maj is headed to Dubai, where she's going to clean up down there, I think, and then be kept in training. And absolutely, we'll see her, assuming everything is in order, back in probably in the same race next year, Breeders' Cup. And if you want a short stretch, there's nothing shorter than Del Mar. So if she's in the same form next year as she was in this race, she'll probably win. And by the way, not to throw was it salt on the wounds, whatever they call it, but
yeah, they're still open, so be careful.
She galloped out in front, by the way. I'm not so sure she really, if you watch her at the 8th pole, her ears are up. I think maybe she felt once she struck the front, it was over, and she got collared, and maybe didn't even sense Master of the Season the final 50 yards. Maybe she did, but galloping out in the clubhouse there, and she's 3 in front, so they don't pay off, unfortunately, at the 7/8 pole. But I mean, the only thing we as handicappers can do is hope that whoever we like runs as well as we expect them to run. And then whatever happens. She ran as well as both of us expected her to run, and she didn't even get to the front, which we thought was one of the reasons why she was going to win. But she settled behind the 2 fast horses and kicked on with it, and then got nailed. Master of the Seas ran unbelievably well, though. I mean, you have to hand it to him.
Finish.
And it just goes to show you, we were giving out free advice about 2 weeks ago, as we always do. And we were talking about Up to the Mark and how we probably thought that maybe he would have had a better chance running in the mile than he did going against Auguste Rodin in the mile and a half. And the horse that he beat on the square won the mile. So I guess we weren't too far wrong by suggesting that Up to the Mark should run in the mile. And he ran great, by the way, in the mile and a half.
He did.
He just got beat by a super horse, that's all.
Yeah. He would have been effective in any Breeders' Cup race. That's the key. What a year for Up to the Mark. Definitely want to salute him on there. A little piece of news. Zandon, one of the horses we won't see in 2024, just before we recorded our podcast, announced he is going to stud. So Zandon will be retired now and head to the breeding shed. So that bit of news of horses that we won't see back in 2024. Let's go to our fourth topic here as we change gears just slightly from the Breeders' Cup, but still with some Breeders' Cup implications. Our Triple Crown tracker is teeing up because Breeders' Cup's over, baby. So we're moving on to the May Classics next year. Our Triple Crown tracker starts, though, at the Breeders' Cup, where Fierceness was Jeff and I's bounce back candidate in the juvenile. I'd say he bounced back.
Fierceness grabs the lead. Muth right up alongside. General Partner gives way and is back into third. And they're into the stretch. And it's Fierceness and Muth. The two of them turning for home with Fierceness in front. Fierceness is opened up here to a 2-length lead. Muth is second. Then Timberlake down the outside. But it is going to be Fierceness and John Velasquez. Oh, they're running away. Fierceness. A powerhouse win. And then it was Muth, a late pose from block. Timberlake was fourth, but what a performance by Rapoli by Fierceness.
It's a big barn juvenile. The 4 favorites in this races were from all the big 4 power barns, winning the major preps around the country. Something had to give. You figured, they can't all fire their top shot, but nobody expected the cap to be blown off this year's Breeders' Cup Juvenile the way it was, and then by Fierceness, not by Locked, who was the morning line favorite, and amongst the wagering favorites at post time, it was Fierceness let go at a ridiculous price. He shouldn't have been let go the way that he was because he showed so much talent at Saratoga, Jeff, but he just kind of washed away the memory of that poor start and impatient ride in the Champagne, and that's the Fierceness we saw at the Spa.
I tell you, I was shocked at the price as well. I actually picked him second behind Lock, the colt that I liked.
Right.
But as brutal a trip that he had in the mud in the Champagne, once he broke running and got to that position, I thought he had a chance to run well. But what was so impressive to me, and was complete opposite of what happened to him in New York, he switched off so beautifully. He got into that cruise control, stalking the pace. He'd run like a horse had run 100 times. He was a push-button horse. He accelerated when asked. Muth, who I think is a pretty darn good horse, Jeremy, came to him, and he just shrugged him off like water off his back.
He ran his race. I had Muth over Fierceness, and I'm counting my cash at the top of the stretch, and he just shrugged off Muth. Man.
He did, and he earned a 105 buyer number. It was a legitimately fast race. Not only was I shocked at the price, but when I looked at the tote, and saw that the final time, I said, man, this is going to come up a huge number. And it did. Fast race, did it, drawing away, didn't get tired. A beautiful mover. And, City of Light hasn't set the world on fire yet as a stallion. But if he's going to get a good horse, they're going to develop later, as most of the quality roads will, sire of City of Light. Mm-hmm. So the future is very bright for this colt. Numbers wise, he's way faster than Forte was when he won it last year.
Sure.
And I think he's a way better horse because he's got more brilliance in him than Forte.
Yes.
And I think now there's some nice horses out there we haven't seen yet. So we don't know what it's going to be like. But if you got 29-1, and we'll talk about this a little bit later in the future book that closed on Thursday, you probably would want more, but you're probably not too disappointed either the way that colt went out and did it, because he is for real. I think his first race was for real. His third race was for real. His second race was a complete and utter toss out. It didn't even happen as far as I'm concerned.
Right.
By the way, Locked I thought ran well too. I don't know why he was dead last early. He made an extended run. He galloped out well.
Yeah.
He stayed on nicely. He didn't win it. He probably didn't run as well as I thought he was going to win.
Yeah.
But he wasn't going to beat Fierceness doing anything anyway. But it's not. I wouldn't give up on Locked either. Muth, I think, ran well. I don't know how much upside he's got, but but he still ran well. And we were going to hear a lot of good things about a lot of horses we don't even know about yet after the first of the year.
Yeah, Mage we didn't know about. We didn't know about Justify. You just think of like recent history, and these horses are later and later developing down the trail. So where we are now as far as the 2-year-olds go, Fierceness to me, maybe the most impressive Breeders' Cup juvenile winner since Street Sense when he ran off the screen at Churchill in 2006. Maybe
Uncle Mo for me.
Uncle Mo, so that would have been a couple years later after Street Sense. So yeah.
Right. When Uncle Mo won his Breeders' Cup juvenile, I said to myself, Okay, he's the Derby winner. He's cut above.
Yeah.
And this, I believe, I think I read this, that this was the best buyer speed figure since Uncle Mo. So
Okay.
there was something like that. But yeah, he could be. I mean, that's how it is. And
Put him in good company, and you're putting a lot of distance between him and the company that you want to say in the same breath amongst the Breeders' Cup Juvenile winners. So
that's how I feel.
Very impressive. Yeah. Let's take a look at that future wager that you talked about that closed last week. I think it's about 150-some thousand bet in the win pool in this future wager. All other 3-year-olds in 40 pari-mutuel interest in here was bet to 4 to 5 favoritism. That's actually a little higher than I thought when you're talking this early in the year and 40 pari-mutuel interest like that. I really thought all others would be, a bit lower than that. There are too many horses in this that are under 40 to 1, Jeff. There are 9 individual interests, 40 to 1 or less. Fierceness, 29 to 1. You see him in the gap back to the others in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile there in the photograph. Locked is the second choice. Of course, he was the morning line favorite going into the Breeders' Cup Juvenile. So these pools closed on Thursday before the Breeders' Cup Juvenile was contested. Dornock, 19 to 1 on Mage's younger brother, the Keeneland debut winner, the second individual lowest wagering choice in here. That's got to be more name notoriety than anything, right?
I think so. I think, if you got all other 3-year-olds, that means you've got a lot of nice horses that fall under the Baffert umbrella who cannot be listed, including Nisos, a horse that we showcased a couple of weeks ago at Future Stars, who I think he is the best 2 turning 3 in Baffert's barn. You'll get him, but you're getting him at 4 to 5. You wouldn't be getting 4 to 5 on him if he was part of the the main bulk of the field. But again, you're right. I mean, I liked Locked. I wouldn't have taken 14 to 1 on anybody because that's too short.
Yeah.
29 to 1 on Fierceness. You still have to win it. You still have to get there. That's part of the equation.
Yes.
But the way he ran the other day, and the fact that he's now a Breeders' Cup Juvenile winner, which means he doesn't really have to prove a whole lot and go through the grinder next winter. They can give him a couple of races, 2, 3 maybe at the most. And if he's as good as he was last Friday, there may be someone out there that'll beat him, but he better be really, really good.
Well, let's try to find that next star of tomorrow. We do that here on the show each and every week as our 5th and final topic. We're looking for a 2-year-old, a 3-year-old exploding onto the scene, and out of the maiden ranks most often is where we find those. On Sunday at Churchill Downs, there was a 3-year-old maiden special weight race with a horse named Mullan, full brother to Kentucky Derby winner Mandaloon, and wearing those same Juddmonte colors. He's not going to run in the Derby because he's too old, but he might be a nice 4-year-old to watch next year.
Mullan off the turn in front. Nyquist is back into second. Wicked Again's giving way. Artwell is there. Spielman coming down the center. Bearings coming in between. Everybody chasing Mullan, who is on complete cruise control. Florent Giroux not moving a muscle through the stretch. They will canter under the wire to win it by 9 lengths in the end. Big win there.
So, Jeff, what do you think we do with Mullan from this point forward?
I don't think a non-1 is a 2 will fill anywhere around those areas. No, I mean, he, again, you mentioned the pedigree, 99 Beyer number in his second start. He never took a deep breath, really. He never asked to run. That was a 1-turn mile, a mile and 34 and 3. Last 8th was 24 flat, but it couldn't have done it any easier. Somehow, some way, this colt managed to get himself beat in his debut at Ellis Park. He was 3 to 5, I think it was. Got beat in nose, came too late and couldn't get up. But sometimes you get beat first time out. It's not the worst thing in the world for the connections anyway, because that allows him to come back against maidens, stretch out, get another race under his belt, which he did. As a 4-year-old, and we talked about some of the good 4-year-olds that are coming back next year, and Mullan might join that party pretty soon as a 4-year-old next year. I mean, he's again pedigree as it is. He's buying into mischief. The brother actually finished second in the Derby behind the Medina Spirit. Got awarded the money because of the disqualification. But he was a very, very good horse even without the Derby. So even if he didn't win the Derby, he won a lot of other good races, the Haskell and a few others. So if he's a full brother to a horse that we know can go a mile and a quarter, what lies in store for Mullan? He is a budding star, again, trained by Brad Cox. He's a Judd Mott horse, which is great for Brad because there's not going to be any crazy things being asked of this horse. He'll let him develop as he wants to. But I can't wait to see him come back. He's must-see racing, must-see TV when he comes back, whenever that may be, and wherever he may be, Brad Cox with a superstar in the making.
There's still the grade 1 Malibu at 7 furlongs this year for 3-year-olds. If you want to stay against straight 3-year-olds, that's a big ask if they want to go from this maiden race into the Malibu. But also the winter campaign at Fairgrounds where Brad Cox will be stabled, and Mandaloun had so much success there at Fairgrounds. They've got a long series up towards the New Orleans handicap that you could build this horse up with 2-3 prep races and see where you fall. Of course, Oaklawn's also got some very lucrative races on the path towards the Oaklawn handicap in the spring too. All those prep races, Razorback, etc. So there's going to be races in the Mid-South for a very good 4-year-old. This looks like a horse who could be a very good 4-year-old and would probably fit in those races maybe a little bit better than what we see for, taking that big chunk maybe of going out to Jeff's backyard.
I wouldn't go to the Malibu. I mean, the big picture is, all right, if you thought the horse was unsound and maybe he only had a few good races in him, maybe you'd want to get that grade 1 out of the way. But if you think this horse is going to have the kind of 2024 that I think he can, don't panic. Let him develop. Let him, his day will come. It'll come soon enough. Maybe even by the time the Met Mile shows up. I don't know, but you don't need to be jumping in against playing against Baffert. It's like playing Alabama, Tuscaloosa. You don't need to do that. Not this quick. Let them come to you, and then when you're ready, go after.
He's a 3-year-old that didn't make his debut till Ellis this summer, and now just a second career start at the end of his 3-year-old season. So they've obviously been patient with him to this point. So let's see if that continues. So that will wrap up our 5 topics on the big board this week. These are now official because Jeff Siegel and I said so. That's the way we play it. Wishes granted with Cody's Wish winning the Breeders' Cup Dirt Mile for the second year in a row. We paid homage to Bill Mott, the trainer who won 3 races on Breeders' Cup Day, with 2 defending champions among those. Back for more in 24. Talked about some of the top horses back for a campaign next year, which includes White Abarrio, the winner of the Classic. Our Triple Crown tracker took a look at Fierceness, winner of the Breeders' Cup Juvenile, and the recently completed Kentucky Derby Future Wager Pool number 1. And our star of tomorrow is Mullan, wearing the colors of Juddmont Farms for Brad Cox, winning at Churchill on Sunday, November the 5th. Now, sometimes here on our show, we've got some irreverent topics at the end for a little bit of a bonus topic. We're going to take a serious tone to this week's show and the completion. We talked about Cody's Wish at the top of the show, and to put a bow on it, we want to talk about the human side of Cody's Wish, that being young Cody Dorman, who passed away on Sunday. That announcement coming out just 24 hours ago on Monday as we tape our podcast on Tuesdays. A statement from his family we want to share, and we also want to share where perhaps you can open your hearts and your wallets, your credit cards to the Make-A-Wish Foundation. The Make-A-Wish Foundation is what put Cody's Wish, the horse, the foal by Curlin, in contact with Cody Dorman, the young boy who went through life with Wolf-Hirschhorn syndrome and made that special bond and connection. Keeneland, kudos to them for their fabulous Make-A-Wish program that they do every year during their meet. They are to deserve a bit of a pat on the back for this as well. The Dorman family, of course, Mother Leslie, Father Kelly, Sister Kylie, they released a statement, and I want to share the statement in full with you here and also let you know where you might be able to contribute to Cody's memory of Cody Dorman and the Make-A-Wish Foundation. So here is the statement from the Dorman family, and we close our show by letting you know that they say in full, "We are heartbroken to share the news that our beloved Cody suffered a medical event on our trip home to Kentucky yesterday, and he has passed away. On Saturday, Cody watched his best friend, Cody's Wish, display his usual perseverance and toughness in winning a second Breeders' Cup. Those are the same characteristics Cody has showed time and again for the 18 years we were blessed to have him. We have been completely amazed to experience the impact Cody has had on so many people through the journey that this wondrous racehorse has taken us all on. From Churchill Downs to Keeneland to Saratoga to Santa Anita this weekend, we could not move 20 feet without someone stopping to tell us just that. With Cody's diagnosis at birth, we always knew this day would come, but we were determined to help Cody live the best life for however long we had him. Anyone who has seen him at the racetrack, especially around Cody's Wish, understands that in many ways he taught us all how to live, always keeping a positive attitude and being more concerned about those around him than himself. As people of faith, we are comforted in the knowledge that Cody has gone home. We pray that he watch over all of us, especially Kylie, the best little sister in the world. We are sincerely grateful for all those who have shared this journey with Cody and our family. The joy that this interactions with Cody's Wish have brought him the last 5 years is indescribable. We will rely on those memories to help us through an unimaginably difficult time. That from the Dorman family, dated yesterday, November 6, 2023. I visited the website today. I hope you do the same and take a look at the Make-A-Wish Foundation and all they do for children around the world. The Kentucky chapter is where the Dorman family has asked if anyone would like to make a donation on Cody's behalf and in his memory to honor those. So www.wish.org if you have the ability and care to donate to such a great cause. That's Cody Dorman there at Gainsborough Farm with Cody's Wish. That photo, of course, courtesy of the Make-A-Wish Foundation. Jeff and I will be back on Friday. God bless and have a great day.